What's up, Run Club? Welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Damiano, and today we are talking about structures. Do you have one? Does it work? What are the pros and cons and everything in between? But before all of that, I have a bunch of socials that I forgot to tell you about in the last podcast that you can follow for even more Running Club content. So to kick things off, we've got an Instagram account that you can follow, which is at the Run Club WDC. The TikTok is exactly the same. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, we have an email address that you can contact us at, which is therunclubwdc@gmail.com. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get into today's episode. So, structure. This week it's been a big talking point in my conversations, and I thought it would be a great concept to look at from a runner's perspective as well as in a daily life perspective. I mentioned on the last episode that it took me about 18 to 24 months to really hit my stride with running, and I guess a large part of that is because I had no structure back then. Not just in my runs, but also where I lived. We moved around a lot, and I had a lot of ups and downs with my health, so I couldn't really prioritize anything, as I never really knew when I was going to be in hospital or not. So essentially, I fell off the wagon, if you like. Of course, back then, I wasn't really clued up on distances and heart rate zones and all the other runner's jargon, if you will. So maybe the lack of educating myself on the sport was also a little bit to do with it as well. But as life slowly started getting back to normal for everybody, things started falling back into place. My daughters went back to school, my partner was working a bit more, but I was still signed off of work. So with the house and the internet to myself, I consumed a lot of, not porn, you dirty bastard. I consumed a lot of running content, books, YouTube videos, the London Marathon. If it was to do with running, I consumed it. I know this has gotten away from the structure, but the context is valid, so please bear with me. I guess I never fell off of the wagon as such. I just took it from a different angle. I learned all that I could from the people that knew, so that when I was in a place where actual running was something I could focus on, I knew what I was doing and how to achieve the goals I was aiming for. In the early days, I think I mentioned in the last episode, I planned to run a mile a day for 30 days. And I didn't know it then, but that was me structuring my workouts. And at that point, it was to basically give my body the best chance at living with an autoimmune disease. And I guess it worked out, because I'm no longer under the care of the endocrine department at my local hospital. I'm still on the meds, but regular visits are no longer needed. And later on, I'll tell you something a little bit more incredible. So yeah, as time went on and those 30 days passed, I was out of a routine. I had no structure to my training. And the same thing happened when I busted my knee after that first 5K. I said on last week's episode how I became a depressed sack of shit, and I'm not joking. I'd lay on my sofa for days feeling lost. It's the only thing I could think about, and now while penning this episode, that's a light bulb has gone off in my brain. I don't think it was the not running that sunk me into them depths of despair, but more the fact that I have nothing to do. I wasn't working, I wasn't exercising. All I was doing was obsessing about the things I couldn't do, which, as we know, isn't good for anybody. But thankfully, that only lasted 2 weeks, and I could begin to plan a new routine that consisted of 3 recovery runs between 2 to 3 kilometers Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I would try to hit a 6-kilometer run on a Sunday. And I left Tuesdays and Thursdays for strength and conditioning. As a runner, we know strength and conditioning isn't the one, but it's definitely necessary. And my Saturdays were a rest day. And that kept me happy for a few months until Christmas came. And other than presents and Christmas dinner, the holiday season is renowned for throwing one's routine out of the top floor window. I had every intention to continue running when January rolled round, having planned an off-season for the Christmas Eve to January the 2nd. However, this wasn't the case. I tried a few base runs in February, but my body wasn't having it. And I know that was probably my thyroid holding me back, and I wasn't going to fight it. until I watched a guy on YouTube with the same condition as me basically reverse his thyroid condition by changing his lifestyle. And I wanted that. So I planned a new structure. I'd run a little and I'd run often until I was ready to increase my mileage. But alongside this, I gave my diet a complete overhaul. So now not eating any fast food, and no sweets and chocolate, no crisps, and I would allow myself one caffeinated drink a day and the rest would just be water. I don't eat dairy, I don't drink milk, obviously that's dairy as well. And I was eating as much fruit and veg as I possibly could consume. Most of my meals, even like still now, all of my meals are, I would say, 90% fruit and veg. So cut to the end of April and I was running 5Ks without any issue anymore. So I began plotting a race day to work towards, and I built a routine around that. My current routine is rest days on Monday, Thursday and Friday, easy runs on Tuesday and Saturday, steady state runs on a Wednesday, and a long run on a Sunday. I'm currently in week 4 of 12 of this routine, and I'm loving it. I think for me, it gives me the perfect amount of runs to feed my obsession and the right amount of rest between. So the incredible something else. So in 2021, I was diagnosed with adrenal insufficiency leading to Addison's disease. And I was placed on steroids that almost killed me for 3 months until I refused to take them anymore. And last week, I went for my last endocrine. Well, I didn't know it was going to be my last, but knowing now, it's my last. I went for my last appointment at the endocrine department to check my adrenal glands, and I got the results just Saturday just gone, and my doctor said that my adrenals had mended themselves and I no longer have any indication of adrenal insufficiency or Addison's. So in 1 year through running, I won't say diet because that's a new thing for me, my body has managed to repair something that usually they say is irreparable. So that's great. I'm really happy with that. Let me apologize for those sirens. It's quite busy around here, and where I'm recording this podcast, it is not soundproof. Anyway, structure. Do they work? I'm going to say from personal experience, absolutely fucking yes, they do. In a health and fitness sense and in any other sense you apply it to. As long, bearing in mind, as you have the drive and the passion to stick with it through the tough, mundane and boring days, it will absolutely work for you. And you will reap the rewards. Remember, nothing that is worth having in life comes easy. If it did, we'd all be Jeff Bezos, but we're not. But having a plan, a routine, a structure to getting where you want will 100% get you there. And what are the pros and cons of a structure? Well, for me, once you're in it, life is good. But if you obsess over things like I do, it can lead to unhealthy traits such as neglecting your family and other important commitments. A structure can help you navigate your way to achieving goals, but it can also throw you in the worst depression if you're no longer in one. So with that being said, do you have a structure? A workout plan? Maybe a work-related goal you're aiming for? Let me know over on our social pages. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Peace.